Welcome in to Greenville Grit, Greenville residents in touch on 103.7 WTIB. This is the local show that keeps you connected and in touch with the issues that affect what's happening in your community. Greenville Grit is sponsored by Ribeyes, Kid Construction, and Greenville Toyota. Now, here are your hosts for Greenville Grit, Terry Williams and Michael Overton.
Good evening and welcome to Greenville Grit. I am Terry Williams.
And I'm Michael Overton. Terry, we have an exciting guest on today.
Great
Did you mention
guest.
it on the air today, Henry? Did you tell people to listen in?
I did.
So Henry Hinton, owner of this station, our boss
right.
by these regards, I guess.
Not hardly.
But
By the way, this is the third year, and I've never been on this show before.
that's not
No,
true. You
that's
came
not
on
true.
beginning
Was
last year.
Last year.
We
That's
made
right, I
such
did.
an impression on you. You
Yeah,
forgot
we
you were on the
really-
show.
I forgot.
We
You're right. I
had you
did. I
kick
forgot about
it
that.
off last year.
Yeah. Well, I'm
About the
excited.
same time because we thought it would be just a really good idea for.
You wanted some predictions for the year.
That's right.
Did you
that's
check and
right.
see if I was right?
Wouldn't dare do that.
Well, we'll talk about some of that.
That's right.
A wrap up, but this is our first show of the year,
That's
even
right.
though we're in the
We're a little
third
bit
week.
later
So
getting started.
had a couple of Duke games the last 2 weeks, and took a last couple
We
of
were
weeks of
preempted
Christmas
by
off,
Duke.
so that was nice.
Sorry about that.
It was amazing.
It was
Right.
amazing.
Exactly.
We had a Duke
actually a-
basketball game.
So, in order to get the show started, we always thank the sponsors because if it weren't for them, we wouldn't still be doing the show
right.
because Henry turned the lights off on us. But we got to thank Greenville Toyota. They're continued to support us since day one. What, Terry, we at 2 years now?
This is the start of the third.
Third year.
But they've
Yes.
been with us since the
It's
beginning.
been a long time. So, you're looking for a new Toyota or Scion, new used car, go see Craig Goss. At the Greenville Toyota team, located across from Fresh Market on Memorial Drive. You can dial them up at 321-3000 or go on the web at greenvilletoyota.com. We have Ribeye Steakhouse.
That's right.
Continue to support us also. If you're looking for a fantastic atmosphere. They got the Angus room for your events, and they're even doing some menu changes here coming up in the next
Right.
couple of weeks.
That's
I spoke
right.
with Joey about the other night.
I love the salad bar.
I do
The salad
too.
bar is fantastic. Go visit them. They are on the at the corner of Arlington and Fire Tower. I had to think about that, as well as in Williamston, also the Overton Group, which we got a little change, a little announcement. We have just launched Overton Residential Properties. You can catch them at overtonresidential.com. And we have four agents, actually. Terry
right.
Williams is one of our newest
Yeah.
agents.
Excited to make the change.
There you go. All right.
Thank you,
I just
Terry.
found this out. That's
Yeah, about
that's
a minute
unbelievable.
ago. So Terry and
Yeah,
Trey
really
Williams
excited.
have just come over. We still have Michelle Connors, who is a longtime Greenville agent, as well as Alana Jones. So we've got the people in there to help you, and you can check them out on the web at overtonresidential.com. We'll take our 2-minute commercial break, come back. We're going to talk about 2016 and wrap up 2015. Be back in 2. Well, welcome back to the Greenville Grit. I am Michael Overton, along with my co-host Terry Williams. This is our first show of 2016, and just like 2015, although he does not remember it, we have Henry Hinton on.
I remember now.
Host of Talk of the Town and Greenville Celebrity. So, Henry, the reason we want you on, it was a great show last year because we talked a lot about the upcoming election, which finally is behind us.
Yeah.
Kind of. We have a new one coming up here.
That's right.
But big changes in the municipal election and the way things wrapped up at the end of the year. So, Terry, how do you want to do this? Do you want to
Yeah,
talk,
let's
kind of
just-
wrap up
well,
how 2015 finished up and talk about some
Sure.
predictions?
Let's see what Henry thinks about how the outcome of the election affected Greenville and the change on the city council. What do you think?
Well, I don't think we know how it affected Greenville yet, but I think it is kind of a sea change because you've got new blood, new young blood on the city council, and the question is, what do they want to get accomplished? I mean, we heard the campaign, we heard what they said. You sense that it could be a more business-friendly environment than it's been in the past. The mayor continues to say that economic development in the downtown area and throughout the city is his number one objective. And so if that's the case, then you've got, he's got some support he didn't have before. We always have that 4-2 vote on the council. And, the elephant in the room is whether or not it's going to be a pro-business or an anti-business group. And even though Calvin Mercer always likes to point out how pro-business he is, I mean, the truth of the matter is with the folks that we had on the council before, there wasn't a sense that you could really move the needle in a big way with something. the first litmus test here is what we're going to do about the town common.
That's right. It's already started.
And so the issue of whether it should totally remain total green space. To me, they're focused on all the wrong stuff again, because we're talking about what we should do to commemorate Sycamore Baptist Church,
right,
which is fine. Let's do that. But I mean, the big issue is, what do you do with the town common to elevate the city, to make it a more livable city, to make it a better place to live, to make it, I go to the town common with my grandchild, walk along, and I see beer bottles and cigarette butts and stuff like that down there. I mean, and yet there are some people who have this pristine Pollyanna view that, it's the ultimate green space. Well, it's not. So let's do something to make it better for the city. I'm not saying go develop the whole thing, but
unfortunately, what is being turned, Henry, is, and this, is when you say let's develop this town commons, that means get things going on it, which it could include still have large sections of green space. But they hear that word develop, or they hear that word business, or they hear that word economic development, and it means destroy all green space, build big buildings on it.
And that's not what we mean by that at all. And I think it could definitely be incorporated to be developed as a useful space and still maintain the green space for the needs that we need it for. But that's an awful big part of acreage to only have green space in that particular location that's so vital to completing the puzzle of the downtown.
The other big city story as we start the year is, what's up with the parking deck? We were told we needed this parking deck. We've spent something like $5 million to build this parking deck, and it's empty. $6 million, and then they put these parking meters out that nobody knows how. I'm telling you, I got a college education. I'm not the smartest person out there. I don't have a PhD, but I'm smart enough to figure out how to use a parking meter, and those things are ridiculous. And there's been no effort to teach people how to use it.
Now I've heard they've covered them.
They have, because the police chief has said, people would rather get the $5 parking ticket than they would to pay $6 in the, or maybe $6 or $5 or $6, whatever it costs to park in the parking deck. They got to solve that. That's taxpayer money that we were told we needed to spend, that it was going to help develop the downtown area. Huge black eye, in my opinion, for the city management.
Well,
I don't think they did a good job at all with rolling that whole thing out.
And a part of my issue with since we're speaking about the parking deck, is they did not get stakeholders involved. They didn't talk to the downtown business people.
No.
They didn't talk to the residents. We built a parking deck, and they say, we're going to start charging you to park there.
Right.
I mean, part of the downtown development, it's kind of like the people who want to do the municipal service tax in the downtown district.
Yeah.
And I've looked at them and said, you are doing this way too early.
Right.
We are trying to build, we do not have a vibrant downtown. We're trying to build a vibrant downtown. You're trying to get people down there. So now you're telling, you can come down here. We have parking for you. Oh, but by the way, you got to pay for it.
Right.
And they're not going to do that.
Yeah. Have either of you used the parking deck yet?
I have
not since they started charging.
I haven't either.
I have not.
I haven't used it at all before
I'll go find another lot.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
And so far I haven't had trouble finding parking down there. But I do know that I'm not criticizing the fact that we built the parking deck. I'm just criticizing the way that it was rolled out and the whole parking meter issue and all that. Parking deck's going to end up getting utilized because downtown's continuing to grow with the great things that we see happening down there, which are being done, by the way, by private industry and private developers and commeral sector of the community. People need to remember that. I mean, that's where the money's coming from.
Vote the bad people.
There are some university things happening there as well, which is it's good. It's a mixture.
Well, I haven't really heard very much. Maybe it's premature, though, from our new economic director. Have you all heard very much from him yet?
Don't know what his game plan is. I haven't met him yet.
I'd really like to know.
But
I'm
glad we're continuing that. I think
too.
I think that's very important. I know a lot of people had said when Alan Thomas came up with the idea that we needed a economic development manager downtown for the city. That's not the role. That's not the role of the city. That's not the role. But he's like, well, you know what? We got our own agenda here. We're going to make it. And so, kudos to Alan for sticking with that.
I think so too. And I was very pleased that the gentleman came from Wilmington because of everything that they've done to accomplish. And we've got some things that are like Wilmington, and I think that he will hopefully have some great ideas. But I'd really like to hear them pretty quickly.
That brings up an interesting point. I don't mean to dominate your agenda,
no,
but
that's okay. We don't have an agenda.
But you mentioned Wilmington. Wilmington's on fire.
Right.
Wilmington is an economic boom town. Greenville is not.
Right.
The housetops that are started in Greenville now are better than they were. You guys are in real estate, you know better than anybody. We're doing better than we were 4 or 5 years ago, but compared to a Wilmington,
But we're not really growing.
We're not getting the big surge that they're getting. Now they got the coast, they got I-40.
Right.
But let me say this: we've got to develop an economic development plan in Pitt County that does not include medical and
That's
university.
right. Amen to that.
We need something else in this community to take us to another level and bring more people to town and create more activity here.
Well, that's what I was hoping by getting someone like him to want to move from Wilmington to Greenville after the accomplishments I'm sure that they've made there, that he must see some potential and have a plan. I would just, like I said, like to hear it
Yeah.
quickly.
Well, I think I've actually already reached out to him and myself and my competitors
Right.
actually on the commercial brokerage side in requesting a meeting.
Yeah.
And part of our thing is, quite a few times over the last year to 2 years, the city, such as the parking deck or the parking meter situation,
Right.
has made changes or done things and not spoken to the stakeholders.
Right.
I want to reach out to them and get that communication line open. If you're into economic development, you need to have an open line of communication with the brokerage community to know because
That's
we're the
right.
ones beating the ground. We know
Right.
who's coming to town. We know who's knocking on doors.
That's right.
They may have some people that say, the city might say, we don't have that available when we probably do.
Yep.
If we have that open communication line, it's hopefully beneficial, not for one person, but for
agree.
the community as a whole.
I agree. So what do you want to see happen in Greenville in 2016, Henry?
Specifically in Greenville, I want to see a new agreement first and foremost with the university invited to take that to try to shore up the issues with the medical school. I think that's job one right now in terms of where the city is, that put it under the heading of problems that need to be solved. There's no doubt
Right.
there's still some funding problems with Brody. And, we got to shore that up. That would be my first thing I would want to be see. You didn't tell me you were going to ask me
I
this,
didn't.
so I'm working
That's
through
okay.
it here mentally. I'd like to see, we can talk about the fact that I would like to see another person in the legislature from Pitt County. We only have one.
Right.
And now there's a new opportunity for that, that no one really saw coming, to be honest with you. I had been a big advocate of trying to get someone to run for Senate from Pitt County. As you know, our two senators that represent Pitt County right now come from Wayne County and Greene County.
Right.
One Democrat, one Republican. I was really hoping to see somebody step up, and the politics got in the way. That was a real possibility, but politics got in the way again, and it was Raleigh politics that got in the way of
Right.
keeping that from happening. And so all of a sudden, there's no but one from Pitt County running for Senate
That's right.
again.
Yep.
So you have Greg Murphy, who's a newcomer to the scene, who I think is going to be fantastic. He does not have a primary. He's going to have to win his general election. He's going to have a challenge from the young man who's the
Brian
architect,
Farkas.
Brian Farkas,
Yep.
Right.
who I've met. Nice-looking young man.
Brian and he's a good guy. I know
Newcomer
Brian.
to the Democratic Party. The question there is, as we look toward November, is do the Democrats think that this is a winnable district? Therefore, will they get behind Brian Farkas and throw lots of money in
Right.
Pitt County to try to take this seat away from the Republicans? Greg Murphy, on the other hand, newcomer, doctor. He is the only medical doctor now in the legislature.
That's amazing.
I know it
And
is.
and he has gotten, I can tell you, he's done his politics right. He's gotten close to the Speaker of the House. Speaker of the House coming to town next week to do a fundraiser for him.
Right.
He got appointed to the Health and Human Services Committee, which he needed to be on. He got all the right
Right.
committees, so he has already gained a lot
He's
of
in
credibility
place.
there and can do some great things for the community. And the other thing is that, what I'm seeing is the medical community really rallying around Greg Murphy to support him financially,
Right.
to take him to another level. So, again, he's going to have money. The question is, will Brian
Will
Farkas
Brian?
have money? And my guess is that Brian will not be able to raise much money locally because he's going to be working against a very popular incumbent
Right.
from the medical community. So his money's going to have to come from the Democratic Party. Will the party look at this as winnable? Because what they're going to do is they're going to pick districts around the state that they think are winnable.
Right.
They're going to throw money into those districts, and he's going to have to go to Raleigh and fight for that money and say to his caucus, give me money, I can beat
Right.
Greg Murphy. I think it's a tall task for him, but that's what he's going to have to do to be competitive.
Well, I think the other person running too, and it's ironic, I just ate lunch with her, and I have a lot of respect for her, is Candy Smith.
Candy.
I mean, she's our mayor pro tem here in Greenville.
That's
Been on
right.
the city council this is her 5th year, I believe. Third term, but she is probably, I'd say, one of the strongest people on council, has been one of the best voices for economic development.
She has been.
Yes.
And that was kind of the wild card I didn't see coming,
Right.
because that's District 24 in the House, which is currently occupied by Gene Farmer Butterfield, longtime Democrat out of Wilson County. And so, that's a Wilson County, Pitt County district, but it's a very heavy minority district. And up until now, there's not been anybody in Pitt County that's really had a chance to beat Gene Farmer Butterfield. Candy Smith's got a chance.
She's got a great
think she's
chance.
got a
And I didn't
terrific
know this
chance.
until lunch, but I think of the total group of people in her district, 60-some% of them are Pitt County residents.
Yeah.
So Candy's really got to get out there. Her challenge is to
favors her.
get in front of the people
That's right.
to make sure that they know who to vote for.
Here's the thing. It would be another Pitt County. It's hard to believe. We have 2 senators and 4 House members that represent Pitt County in the legislature. Only one of those people live in Pitt County.
Right.
Is just a
Crazy.
Pitt County. So this would be a second Pitt County person, and that would certainly be a
I will say
positive.
one
It
thing
would be
though
great.
about and people who visit. I've seen Gene Farmer Butterfield at one event in Greenville, and I don't know how many she's going, but I've only seen her at one. I will have to say I see Don Davis a lot here, so he at least makes the attempt to come to Greenville. I know
Well,
he's on the Democrat side, but he does at least
Let's
make
be
the
honest.
attempt.
He represents Green, and I think his district is Green, part of Lenore, and a lot of Pitt County. He better be here.
Yeah,
Right.
but if you look at Farmer
I mean, you
Butterfield,
think about
as
Greene
supposedly
County versus
That's right,
Pitt County.
that's right.
This is where his voters
That's
are.
true, but if you look at Gene Farmer Butterfield, 60-some% live in Pitt County. You don't see her here.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, the question for Candy, if she gets elected, and of course, this is a discussion for next year, but how will she be influenced? Will she work with Greg Murphy for the betterment of the Brody School of Medicine and all
Right.
that? I think she will.
I think she will.
The question is she going to run into conflicts with what the Democratic caucus wants her to do, and not work with the Republicans on some things? Because Candy's a Democrat, but she's been very bipartisan in her thinking.
Very
Yes,
bipartisan.
very
And
much
very
so.
effective on the city council.
I think so,
I'm
too.
I'm excited about Candy
I am
running.
too. I don't want to get away today without bringing up the bond.
We need to.
We need to talk about that, and of course, you're really well versed on it. So I'd really like to bring it to the attention of our citizens, because I don't read the Daily Reflector very much anymore, but I did see the poll online that showed not favorable about voting. Like 43% that had done that poll were not in favor of the bond, and I don't think that people realize really how important in a lot of ways
online
that bond
polls
could
don't mean
be.
anything.
I know they don't, but still it did bring it to my attention. So
Yeah.
tell us
Well,
a
look
little
how
bit
far
about.
we were off on the Greenville bond.
I know.
and honestly, that's a good
Yeah.
sign, because the Greenville bond passed by 70%,
Right,
70 to 30,
exactly.
something like that. So these things, if there's no formal opposition, they generally pass. And in this particular case, I mean, if people will just educate themselves,
Right.
and there's been a lot of opportunities recently to do that. It was something in Greenville last night. There was the event with
luncheon yesterday.
Dr. Ballard and Dr. Massey yesterday with the chamber. There are going to be other opportunities as we move forward. We're talking about over $100 million coming to Pitt County. Now, why would you be against that? And we had this conversation in the office this past week. People still say, I have a hard time believing that my taxes aren't going to go up. Well, it's a guarantee that your taxes are not going to go up. I'm a Republican. If I thought that it's going to raise our taxes some, I might still be for it, but I'd have to swallow hard, to get $100 million into Pitt County. But it has nothing to do with the interest rate. Everybody's saying, well, it's because the interest rate's low. It doesn't. It's because we've retired
So much
debt
A lot of
to
debt.
the point that we don't have much debt, and this can replace that debt at a lower interest rate. And
Right.
so we're actually going to end up with less debt after this. Remember, the last bond was $3.2 billion, I believe, and that was 2004, something like that. This is now 2016, and we're talking about $2 billion. And $1 billion of it going to the university system. East Carolina was supposed to get originally in the original plan $120 million. They cut the House cut it back to $90 million. But still, it is one of 3 projects, I think, in the bond that's getting $90 million. We're getting the biggest piece of anybody
Right.
in the entire system. Coming to Greenville, $90 million.
I agree.
Think about that, $90
Well, and you're talking
million.
about, I don't know how you can not support it from a Democrat and a Republican side.
Yeah.
And you've got a bond funding education
Right.
and funding economic development.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
between the two,
I mean,
hard to
this is, and here's the thing. I mean, this is nothing against liberal arts, but because the people say Republicans hate liberal arts, and the Board of Governors has been hard on liberal arts. That's a separate issue. But this is not going to building art museums and cultural.
Right.
This is going to life sciences and biotechnology education.
to help
Right.
grow our base of economic
That's
development
right.
in North Carolina.
And so, it's crazy not to support this. And there's only been, it's interesting, there's a few people across the state that are organizing against it. And, I look at the names when I see their website, I'm like, yeah, it's the same old people.
Right.
The no-no.
Same
Right.
old people,
Well, we're going to take our second commercial break. We'll come back. We're going to wrap up the show with about 4 minutes left, so we'll be back in a couple minutes.
Welcome back to our show today. We've had an awesome guest with Henry joining us to kick off the new year and our new year of shows. And let's see how you want to wrap things up today, Henry. What else would you like to share with the citizens of
Well,
Greenville?
the other big story this year politically, I think, will be Walter Jones. Walter, very close race with Taylor Griffin in 2014.
A lot
It
closer
was.
than most people probably realized it was going to be.
It was darn close.
Yes,
In fact, without
scary
Pitt
close.
County, Walter doesn't win. I remember the next morning thinking, I made this comment on the air. I went to bed thinking Walter had lost. The questions about that race this time. Number one, you got 2 opponents instead of 1. You got Taylor Griffin, and you got Phil Law, ex-Marine out of Jacksonville, nice guy. Same opponent as last time, Taylor Griffin, and you got Walter Jones. And Taylor Griffin was the beneficiary in 2014 of probably about $1 million of outside soft money and 527 money that came into the media market, and they just pelted television and radio with anti-Walter Jones ads. It doesn't feel like that's going to happen this time. Now, when we get down into February, you're going to start to see some of that, but is it going to be $1 million worth like last time? I don't know. I mean, and without that, I don't see Taylor
He's going to have to
doing
have the
it.
money. He's
Yeah.
going to have
and
to
then
have
you have the other issue of you now have Phil Law, who is from Onslow County and is making a real run. My personal feeling about Phil is that his biggest issue here is going to be, is he going to take any of Walter's vote, or is it going to just come from Taylor? We talked about during the break.
Right.
Probably mostly Taylor, but what Walter has to worry about is a runoff. If he doesn't get 40% of the vote,
Right.
there will be a runoff.
No, that could be interesting.
And in the event of a runoff, now you've got head-to-head, and the people who want Walter Jones out in Washington, D.C., they will throw millions at a
Right.
runoff because they're going to say, well, we got a chance now to take him out.
That's
Good for
right.
those
That's-
people who own radio stations.
I was going to say, I love Walter, but, that would, I'll tell you, our advertising revenues would be pretty good this summer. if that
That's
happened.
exactly right. So
When
tell
he
us.
says the biggest stories, Walter don't. The biggest story is the Trumpster.
Yeah, I
gosh.
thought we were talking about local stuff.
We are. We're going to talk.
We're
local.
not gonna talk about
We're not
Donald
gonna talk
Trump,
about
but I had to
Trump
bring that
today.
up.
Let's
I'm glad
not
we're
talk
not
about
going
that
there.
today.
Thank you for keeping
That's
me
a
out of
whole nother hour show. We don't have that long.
Well, Terry, we got about a minute and a half left. What else?
Yeah, well, I think that this has been an interesting conversation. Just getting to get into what's going to happen around here locally, and I think it's going to be a really good year. I'm actually looking forward to it. Now, tell everybody about the March date coming up
March 15th.
for voting, and they need to be
Yeah,
prepared, and they need
March
to have an
15th.
ID.
Yes, but now the NAACP is
I
out
know.
there saying you don't have to have an
know.
ID, and there are some scenarios where they're going to let you vote.
That's right.
On a provisional ballot if you don't have it. But
That's right.
Bring your ID, folks.
Look, they've had plenty of time to get them. It really is senseless that they don't have one by now. Well, they give them 3 years to get your ID.
yeah, it's been
So-
out there a long
I
time.
had to tell people how to vote, but around here, you got to vote for Candy. We got to support her, help her get in there,
I hope
and
so.
get some more representation in Pitt County. And
I hate to lose her on the council, but
the only thing that
I
sucks
think
is
we'll
we're
be
going to have to
okay.
listen to about an entire year worth of political ads as we go all the way
What do
through
you
the
mean?
summer.
That's all right. I think that'll be
I
interesting.
said you love it.
It's
Oh
a
my
wonderful
gosh,
thing.
I'm already tired of. We had it all last year too. With
Thank you for
I'm not
having me,
tired
guys.
of
it.
I really enjoy what you guys do. This has
Oh,
been a lot of
thanks a
fun. And
lot.
I love what you do because you focus just on Greenville issues, and we need something like that. We need a venue like that.
Well, thank you for the opportunity
Yes,
of
we
giving
do. We
this
appreciate
venue
it.
to do it and sitting in your seat and spitting into your mic. I enjoy that. So, but look, check us out again Friday night at 6:30, Saturday morning at 9:30. Thank you for joining in the Greenville Grit. Again, we have to thank our sponsors as we wrap up the show, Greenville Toyota, Ribeye Steakhouse, and the Overton Group, and of course, the new Overton Residential Properties at overtonresidential.com. Until next week, we'll see you with Andrew Schmidt, Visitors Bureau head of Greenville. See you then.